Hey guys, it's Belinda and welcome back to my page or my channel, Oh Wow, Overcomers with Our Word. I recently posted a video entitled Spirit Speaks, and in that video I talked about how sometimes we communicate with Source, with Spirit, and we don't always know when Spirit is giving us the guidance and the answers that we need. Today I thought I would follow up with that video that when Spirit is speaking and giving us those answers, we first have to know some of the ways in which Spirit is even trying to get our attention. So today I thought I would come to you with just a few ways, and again, these are not all the ways that Spirit speaks, or the Spirit is actually trying to get our attention in the first place, to arrest us, to get us to a place where He can deal with us and the issues that we're experiencing in our life. Back in 2009, I began my awakening process. But at the time, I had no idea that's what I was even going through. Back in 2006, I had gone through a very difficult situation that I was managing on my own. I didn't have a support system to help me get through some of the things I was experiencing. So from 2006 to 2009, when my process started, I really thought that everything that was happening to me was a result of stress. So I was spending tons of money and a lot of wasted time and office visits going to the doctor, trying to figure out what's wrong with me, only to keep hearing them say, "You're fine, you're healthy, maybe it's stress." So I kept, going that path until, if you've read my book, if any of you have my book, at the very end of it, I talk about how Monday, February 9th, 2009 was a very critical day for me. That was the day that I kind of had my breakthrough to even know what it was I was going through. And that process lasted from February 2009 all the way through November 19th, which was a Thursday, 2009. And so I want to share with you a few of those symptoms that I was experiencing. I won't go into a lot of the things I went through, but I just want to come to you. So in case you're going through some of these things, you will possibly be able to look at this and say, this is Source, this is Spirit trying to get your attention. The first sign, most people experience this. You have a difficulty getting to sleep or staying asleep. And if you do find yourself getting to sleep and having a difficulty staying asleep, what you're also going to realize is you're waking between a certain time of the day, a certain time of the morning. And for me, it was between 2 and 5 a.m. When it first started happening, again, I kept trying to look at what was happening in my life. Was I still worried about something that happened in the workday? And I eventually started trying to pray, thinking, well, maybe I need to pray. And I would pray, and it still kept happening that I was waking up about the same time every morning. I eventually began to keep a notepad in my bed because thoughts and impressions were coming to me, and they were very vivid, coming almost in the form of instructions like read this, do this, research that. I was beginning to get instructions to read certain books of the Bible. I was also receiving instructions to research, and one thing in particular was Stockholm Syndrome. Had no idea what it was. But once I began to see, I would take those steps and follow through on the instructions I was receiving. I began to realize this was something bigger going on here. Second thing that I began to experience was seeing numbers. I started seeing sets of numbers, and it would be the same sets of numbers over and over and over. I could be watching a TV show, and I would see it on the apartment building, in that show or movie, or I could see it on a timeline. I could hear someone say it. I began to see those same sets of numbers on buses, on license plates, and I kept thinking, okay, something's going on here. And it wasn't just one set of 3. I began to see a triple set of 3, because I think what happened was when I noticed the first one, I kept dismissing it. So I would see the first ones over and over, and then a second set of 3 numbers got added to it until a third set of 3 numbers. And then I realized, okay, this is for me to tune in. When I began to see those numbers, I began to pay attention to what I was doing, what I was thinking. And in the beginning, in the beginning, it's hard because you don't know to do that. But then I started trying to think, what is this meaning to me? What was I just thinking about? And I recognized that the first thing was Spirit was just trying to get me to pay attention to my thoughts, because I wasn't paying attention to my thoughts. I wasn't paying attention to what was running through my mind. So that was a second symptom that I experienced. The third one that I will talk about are dreams. I began to notice that when I would sleep, I would start to have some very vivid dreams. Some of them were a little frightening, that I would force myself out of the dream to awaken. But over time, I began to realize that, again, keeping that notepad in my bed with me was very key, because then I would begin to write down what I saw, people, names, images, things that were kind of hard to identify if I didn't have something to attach it to. And I began to pay attention to those dreams. Guys, our dreams are important. Our dreams are keys to how to master this life. Our dreams are going to deal with us in one of three ways. It's going to point us back to something in our past that we've probably suppressed or put so far down that we don't want to deal with, and we're numbing ourselves in other ways to mask that. We're either overeating or drinking too much or partying too much or shopping, anything to try and keep that past situation repressed. Spirit needs us to face that head on, because it needs to be healed so that we can move forward on this process that Spirit wants to take us on. And do know that once it comes up, it won't be a quick or immediate process. Some of us have repressed things for 10, 15, 20 years. And there will probably be layers and layers of that situation that will need to be addressed, forgiven, healed. The other reason our dreams come to us is because of a current situation we're going through that we probably need guidance on how to maneuver and navigate it. Or the last reason our dreams will come to us will be to help prepare us for something that's coming in the future, so that when we begin to see it, we will remember the dream and then have keys as to how we're to get through that situation. Another thing I'd like to talk about, another way that we could probably be aware that we're having a spiritual awakening or an awakening process. Sometimes it's going to come about, and I think this will be key for most of us, through some sort of traumatic experience. And that traumatic experience could be a death, a loss, or an injury. So if you've lost someone very close to you, a parent, a spouse, a child, a beloved pet, or if you've gone through a loss that just totally devastated you, whether it's a financial loss or whether it's the loss of a marriage or a relationship where you invested your all and that person didn't love you back in the same manner, to the way in which you would want it to be loved from that person. Or third, sometimes people have experienced a near-death experience or a very traumatic accident, that while they were in a coma state, or they were placed in that state to help the body begin to heal, a spiritual transformation happens, that when they awaken out of that, they begin to see life and themselves and others with a different set of eyes. And my last one that I'll focus on is the physical symptoms that some of us can go through. I'm not certain if you are familiar with the chakra system, the 7 areas, the 7 locations in the body, and it's typically along the spine. The last 2 you probably hear people talking about a lot, and that's your pineal gland or your third eye and your crown chakra. I began to experience a lot of pain in my shoulders, my back, my head. I initially thought that maybe I had some sort of injury to my spine. I also thought maybe it was herniated disc. I would experience very, very extreme headaches, and even taking over-the-counter medication to relieve it, they kept coming back frequently and stronger. And again, as I said before, I was spending lots of time at the doctor trying to figure out what's wrong with me, and they kept wanting to attribute everything to stress. And by that time, I was pretty much over a lot of the things that had happened to me in 2006 with the relationship. And I thought I was in a pretty good stride with parenting at that point. So I kept telling the doctors, I'm not stressed. So it was when I began to couple it with all the other things that were going on in my life and having to face a big chunk of my life that I had repressed for over 20 years, that Spirit took me through this process of forgiveness. Something that I hadn't done. I hadn't forgiven people who had harmed me. I hadn't forgiven parents. I hadn't forgiven myself, didn't even know how to forgive myself. And more importantly, I was angry with Source and didn't know it. I was angry with the Creator. And yes, guys, we may even need to forgive God. We're holding things against God for what other people did to us. And Source is not responsible for their actions, just like Source is not responsible for ours. So guys, these are a few ways. And again, not all the things that you will experience and not in the order in which I detail them, but do know that in your awakening process, you will experience it emotionally, physically, and spiritually. But Source is here to guide us through this process because one, Source is trying to get our attention to help us deal with those things, clear up the blocks and the things that are holding us back from being launched into the future, into the blessings, into the things that Spirit has prepared for us. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, please feel free to share. If you like it, please feel free to do that as well. But I hope that you will keep coming back. I hope to have some more out there for you soon. Spirit wants us to master this life. Spirit wants us to overcome. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye.